As a controller manufacturer, the story of Gamesir is no doubt a success. Starting as a manufacturer of generic controllers, it's now a major player, with its own designs and technology. And their biggest success has been the X2 series, a telescopic controller that, since the first version, has become a favorite for mobile phones. But all those versions had a minor issue: the lack of analog buttons. That's why today, Gamesir brings us the X2 Pro, an updated version with several new features, and with an official xCloud license. So let's check it out. Welcome back, I'm Claudio, and this is Zero to Tech. The X2 series has become a flagship of phone controllers. With its telescopic mechanism and compact design, it seeks to attract those who want that gaming on their phones felt more like a console. And they have multiple revisions, starting with the original, which clearly emulated the Switch Joy-Cons, the 2021 with a better D-pad, and the Bluetooth and Lightning port versions compatible with iPhones. And recently, we also saw the X3. In addition to having an interchangeable D-pad and front buttons, it includes a Peltier cooler, so your phone won't turn into a frying pan. In our test, it worked so well that it improved the Galaxy S22 performance by almost 50%. But in all Gamesir reviews, we have mentioned the same thing: the lack of analog triggers. A subscriber even commented, "Hey, am I crazy if I really prefer L2 and R2 to be digital?" And not at all. It all depends on what you play. For shooters, digital ones are better, but as a fan of racing games, I'd rather have them analog. And perhaps it was more the pressure for Microsoft to certify the controller for xCloud. But Gamesir finally brings us a version that solves the problem, and some additional features: the Gamesir X2 Pro. The controller comes in a white box with its picture on the front, more in line with the design for Xbox Cloud certified controllers. And in my case, it arrived pretty beaten. Fortunately, it is only the layer of protection because inside, it comes with a case that protects the controller from harm. We opened the case to see the controller with its accessories. That includes the now typical Gamesir caps, 2 concave and 2 convex, a decal, the manual, some other documents, and a 1-month trial for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. The design is like that of his brothers. However, this time there are 2 colors, black and white. I decided on the black one because the ones before were white. The controls have the same arrangement, but it uses the Xbox layout. On the back, in addition to analog L2 and the R2, we have 2 programmable buttons named M1 and the M2. These are on the handle, which is made of rubber to improve grip. The telescopic system is the same, but they have extended it again, and now it can fit phones up to 179mm. And they have improved it a lot. Sliding it feels much smoother, no more scratching. They also added a step on the left side to fit bigger camera modules. It can even fit phones with a skinny case. The phone connectors has the Gamesir flexible system, which is excellent. It avoids unnecessary stress in the connector and in the phone's port. At the bottom, there is a USB-C port used to charge the phone while you play. I have been asked if it can do fast charging, and let's say half of it. We tested with the Red Magic 7S Pro, and without the controller, it was charging at almost 30 watts. With the controller, it only reaches 17, so that should be the limit. It is not a complete fast charge, but it should be more than enough to charge and play. Regarding ergonomics, it is identical to the previous ones. The back is slightly wider and has rubber grips, but the controller is not tall, and you must put your fingers on the bottom to get a good grip. This gets tiresome after a while, and if you want to play with the D-pad, you must think carefully about how to hold it. Other than that, the only thing worth mentioning is that you might accidentally touch the right stick while using the front buttons, even more so with the cap on. Something typical in these controllers. Let's not forget the Gamesir app, which in this case has many things to mention, because it lacks features from previous versions. It allows you to update the firmware, test the controller, and most importantly, change the layout of the front buttons, which you can also change on the controller. The issue is that, unlike previous ones, it does not have the screen mapping mode, so if you try to run a game that needs it, it won't load. But you can always use Mantis, which is a much better option. Now let's jump to the good stuff, starting with the analog sticks. They have been the same since the first version. The travel is very smooth, they don't have any kind of mechanical feel, and its throw is long, almost as good as first-party controllers. These are much better than Joy-Con type sticks, and with the additional caps, the grip is perfect. They have a very clear click that it's easy to press at any angle. Where they have improved a lot, it's in the calibration. The first ones, the rounding had a clear tendency to one side. Not this time. When drawing the figure, we see that the rounding is correct, with all the corners even. And if it fails, now they include a process for recalibration. The sticks have a small dead zone at the bottom that clips the travel. It jumps from 0 to 15%. This is not ideal, but it is within the level that all games expect. And that dead zone does not exist when changing direction or in the upper part, so they work perfectly for gaming. We tried them with Fortnite and there were no surprises. The game detects them perfectly, and even with the small dead zone, aiming is not a problem. All movements works as you expect, very close to perfect. In Mario 64, we can see that the diagonal saturation is correct. Mario does not reach his maximum speed until the stick reaches the corner, as it should be. That is why the figure a stick draws must be rounded. Unfortunately, it is one of those controllers that does not work with Call of Duty Mobile or Apex Legends, so you will need Mantis for both games and those that don't have controller support. However with it, the controller works perfectly. It detected all the buttons without a problem. We tested with Genshin Impact, and after a good calibration, it's almost perfect. Moving now to the new feature, the analog buttons are a big surprise. They are well made and are marked like Xbox, LB, LT, RB and LT. The throw is very smooth, not as long as standard controllers, but enough. The best part is the calibration. They use Hall effect technology just like the Gully kit we saw a few weeks ago. And their calibration is perfect. They saturate from 0 to 100% and have no dead zone at all. They are perfect. All this translates to gaming. In car games like Rush Rally 3, you can regulate acceleration and braking, with no jumps or surprises. Easily, the best triggers we have tested in a telescopic controller. Seriously, just perfect. Gamesir finally solved all the issues in this Pro version. The sticks work as they should. They knew it was an issue they had to fix, and the analog buttons are an excellent example of doing things right the first time. The D-pad is the same one as the 2021 and Bluetooth models. It is relatively small, slightly concave, and uses micro switches instead of membranes. This makes the travel very short and makes some noise when pressing it. But its high pivot makes it work very well. Micro switches don't usually make the best D-pads for sequences, but this one is well made. Testing it with Street Fighter, executing the special moves is easy, and the transfer between the directions is perfect. In the separation tests the same. The mix of high pivot, short travel and size makes it super stable. Impossible to do diagonals by accident. You cannot force them by pressing only one direction, so it's a perfect D-pad for any game. The rest of the buttons also use micro switches, so they have little trouble but a very clear feel when pressed. Personally, I like them, and in this case, they all come with the official Xbox colors and icons. And as you can see, the front ones are a little bigger than previous models. The only thing worth mentioning is that you can change its layout, just like in the X3. You don't want A, B, X, Y, you can take them out and arrange them in Nintendo's BAYX. And by changing the layout also on the app, all games will work as you expect. Another button that is classic in these controllers is the screenshot one. It implements the native Android functionality, so you won't need any additional software. Finally, we have the programmable buttons, M1 and M2. These do not have additional functions like macros. You can only map them to replicate any other button. To do it, you press Start and Select, or Menu and View if you don't speak generic, plus the programmable button until the LEDs start blinking, and then press the button to copy. To remove them again, you press Start, Select and the M button to delete, and then when the LEDs blinks, you press the M button again. To end, let's talk about support on other platforms, or rather the lack of, because unlike the original one, this one is not detected by Windows. We used the same connectors and nothing. It never said it should work, but since it uses standard protocols, one would expect it should. Of course, being a licensed controller for Xbox Cloud Gaming on Android, we had to try it. And there are no surprises. It works perfectly. We tried first on Halo Infinite with no issues. moving and aiming works as it should. Also for car games, I played Forza Horizon for a while, and between the improvements made to the service and the very low latency of a USB controller, it works very well, hard to distinguish from a local game. All the additional buttons work as they should. You can do everything without touching the screen. I also prayed Psychonauts to play something retro, and everything was fine. Whether it's via a cloud service or emulation, it works great in retro games. To close, let's check the price. The official one is $80. I think they tried to hit a sweet spot between being cheaper than the Kishi version 2, but not as cheap as the first one. Now, for $10 more than the regular version, I think it's worth it. Just check where you buy it. I ordered it directly from the Gamesir page, and not only did they charge me $20 for the fast shipping, but it took a month to arrive, which left me very upset. In AliExpress, I would have paid half for shipping, and it would have come earlier. Besides that, I can finally say that this Gamesir X2 Pro is a first-class controller. They have polished all the details from the previous ones, and now there is not much to complain about. It now meets the needs of any gamer. The only issues? Not compatible with Apex Legends and Call of Duty Mobile, and those ergonomics are not the best. They may want to check the BSPD3 and try something better. What do I mean? Check out this video to see what a big surprise that controller is. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And remember, retro games, modern technology, zero to tech.